You've been here before, that quiet moment before the fall, when your hand reaches for what you swore you quit, and your mind whispers, just once more. That's addiction, the invisible pull that makes you crave what hurts you most. And it's not just drugs or alcohol. It's scrolling until 3 a.m., checking the message you shouldn't, chasing the person who keeps breaking you. But here's the twisted part. Your brain doesn't see it as danger. It sees it as survival. So, why do we fall in love with destruction? Why does our mind turn pain into comfort? And how do you break the pull before it breaks you? Let's pull back the curtain on the science, the emotion, and the illusion behind why we love what destroys us. Most people think addiction is about pleasure. It's not. It's about relief. Every hit, every scroll, every one last time isn't about wanting more joy. It's about wanting less pain. When you reach for the drink, the vape, or the phone, what you're really reaching for is silence. That fleeting second when the noise in your head goes quiet. Neuroscientists call this incentive sensitization, when ordinary desire mutates into obsession. Over time, your brain stops chasing joy and starts chasing anticipation. You don't crave the pleasure itself anymore. You crave the promise of it. That's why you keep going back, even when it stops feeling good. Your brain is hooked not on happiness, but on hope. As a 2024 study from the University of Sussex put it, addiction isn't about liking something too much. It's about wanting something that no longer delivers what it once did. The high fades, the wiring stays. And when pain meets false relief, the brain learns one dangerous rule. If it stops the hurt, it must be good. Repeat a behavior long enough, and your brain rewrites itself around it. In addiction, that rewrite goes deep into the systems that control motivation, decision-making, and self-restraint. Each time you feed the craving, the mesolimbic dopamine system floods your body with reward signals. But instead of stabilizing, it starts demanding more. The baseline shifts. The same hit delivers less relief, so you chase it harder. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, the part that says, "Stop, this is a bad idea," begins to weaken. It's like turning down the brakes while flooring the gas. That imbalance, craving on overdrive, control on mute, is the biological core of dependency, not a moral failure, a malfunction in how the brain learns survival. Even after the pleasure is gone, the wiring keeps running the same loop because it believes it's protecting you. A 2023 StatPearls review calls this maladaptive neuroplasticity, your brain literally rebuilding itself around destructive reward patterns. You're not weak, you're rewired. If you strip away the science, what's left is emotion, raw, unfiltered, unresolved. Behind almost every destructive habit hides a wound, rejection, grief, failure, or loneliness. You don't chase the high, you run from the hurt. Psychologists call this negative reinforcement, relief from pain, not pursuit of pleasure. You feel bad, you act out, the pain fades, and your brain records that as success. The next time you hurt, the message repeats. Do it again. In 2022, a meta-review on shame and addiction revealed something chilling. The more ashamed people felt, the deeper the cycle became. Shame didn't stop the behavior, it fed it. And isolation only amplifies it. A 2021 meta-analysis on loneliness linked social disconnection to higher addiction rates and relapse risk. Without connection, the brain turns inward, desperate for any feeling that proves it's still alive, even if that feeling is pain. That's the quiet secret of addiction. It's not always about getting high. Sometimes it's just about not feeling low. You can fight your urges with all your strength, but if your environment stays the same, your brain never stands a chance. Addiction thrives on cues: the smell of smoke, the ping of a notification, the route that takes you past your old escape. Each cue lights up the reward circuit, a flash of memory that says, "This is where relief lives." A 2023 study in Frontiers in Behavioral Neuroscience found that environmental triggers alone can spark dopamine spikes, even without the substance itself. The memory of relief becomes as powerful as the real thing, and modern life is built to exploit that. Apps study your attention, fast food chains weaponize sugar, algorithms drip feed dopamine like a digital IV. This isn't just personal failure, it's engineered dependence. That's why recovery rarely works in the same space that broke you. You can't heal in an environment that keeps feeding the wound. Delete the app, skip the aisle, block the number. Your triggers aren't accidents, they're invitations. Stop showing up to them. The world loves to say recovery is about willpower. It's not. It's about rewiring at 3 levels. First is biological support. For chemical addictions, medications like naltrexone, methadone, or buprenorphine stabilize brain chemistry and calm cravings. These aren't crutches, they're tools proven to save lives. Second is behavioral rewiring. Therapies like CBT and contingency management rebuild how the brain links action to reward. CBT catches the craving before it acts. CM rewards you for progress instead of punishment. A 2021 meta-analysis found these approaches sustain recovery long after treatment ends. And finally, social connection. Isolation builds addiction. Connection dismantles it. Support groups, therapy, or even one consistent friend rebuild your reward system through belonging. Research shows strong social ties can cut relapse risk nearly in half. There isn't one cure, but there is a pattern. When you replace escape with engagement, the brain begins to heal. Recovery doesn't mean no cravings. It means they stop controlling you. Most people stop at quitting. Few make it to becoming someone new. Years of repetition carve deep neural grooves, but neuroplasticity cuts both ways. Each time you choose something that aligns with your values, a walk instead of a drink, a call instead of a scroll, you begin to lay new wiring. Slowly, the brain stops asking for shortcuts and starts rewarding real satisfaction, effort, purpose, connection. Harvard Center for Addiction Medicine calls this functional recovery, when the brain's motivation system rebuilds itself through consistent positive action. The key isn't speed, it's repetition. The same way your old habits trained you toward pain, your new ones train you toward peace. You don't just move on from addiction, you grow out of it, one decision at a time. Freedom doesn't mean never failing. It means knowing why you fell and choosing to rise anyway. We love what destroys us because, for a moment, it saves us. It numbs the ache. It silences the noise. It convinces us we're in control, even when we're breaking. But the real fix isn't in the bottle, the feed, or the needle. It's in rebuilding the parts of you that stopped believing you could change. You don't need another hit of relief. You need a reason to live without it.
The psychology of the family scapegoat. Why one takes blame. What happens inside a home when one person becomes the easy target? When every argument, mistake, and silent tension seems to land on their shoulders even when they did nothing wrong? That question sits at the heart of the family's scapegoat. And today, we're going straight into why one person gets blamed, how this role forms, and the hidden psychology that keeps it alive. Before we dive, think about this. Have you ever wondered why certain families act like emotion is a fire they have to toss onto someone else? Why is one child labeled the troublemaker, while another is praised no matter what they do? And what if the one who carries the blame isn't the cause of the chaos at all, but the shield hiding what the family refuses to face? Let's get in. Families don't usually announce who the scapegoat will be. It happens quietly. One day a child spills juice and gets yelled at. Another day their sibling spills the same juice, and the room laughs it off. Over time, the pattern isn't random anymore. It becomes a role. Psychology calls this scapegoating. And in family systems theory, it's one of the clearest signs of a dysfunctional emotional structure. A scapegoat isn't chosen because they caused the problem. They're chosen because the family needs someone to carry the problem. The purpose is emotional stability, not truth. The moment this dynamic begins, the child becomes the outlet for tension, shame, frustration, and unresolved pain that has nothing to do with them. This is why experts say the scapegoat child is rarely the cause of the issues they're accused of. The role exists to redirect pressure away from the family's deeper wounds, and that redirection usually starts with one psychological mechanism: projection. Projection is simple but destructive. When a parent struggles with anger, guilt, or insecurity that they cannot confront, they project it onto the child who seems easiest to blame. This may be the child who is quiet, sensitive, outspoken, independent, or simply different from the family's mold. Because once that projection begins, the family doesn't just blame the child. They start reorganizing the entire household around that story. Suddenly, every small misstep fits the narrative. If they act out, it is proof. If they stay silent, it is attitude. If they succeed, it is ignored. The role locks in early, and once cemented, it becomes almost impossible to break from inside the system. You'll often see this play out when the family also crowns someone else as the golden child. This sibling becomes the good one, praised for traits the scapegoat may also have, or even have more of. But the roles aren't about fairness. They're about emotional structure. The golden child keeps the family's image clean. The scapegoat absorbs the dirt the family can't face. This isn't random, it's strategic, and it's damaging in ways most people never see. Because being the family's emotional sponge leaves marks that reach far beyond childhood. Imagine waking up every day already wrong, not because of anything you did, but because the family needs you to be the one who holds its shadow. Research shows that scapegoated children grow up with intense and chronic self-doubt. They learn to scan every interaction, every tone shift, every sigh in the room for signs that blame is coming. A steady strain trains the nervous system to adapt. Their identity forms around avoiding conflict, anticipating danger, or trying to earn affection that never comes. This constant tension can trigger anxiety, shame, and chronic stress. Some develop symptoms consistent with complex trauma. The child internalizes the idea, if I am always the problem, maybe I am the problem. And that belief becomes the quiet voice that follows them into adulthood. But scapegoating doesn't happen because the child is weak. In many cases, it happens because the child is strong. The most independent child, the most outspoken, the one who sees through dysfunction first. They are often the most threatening to a parent who cannot tolerate emotional reflection. Removing their voice becomes a survival strategy for the family. And once this role is assigned, the system guards it fiercely. In dysfunctional homes, everyone learns to play their part. Parents reinforce the blame. Siblings join in to avoid becoming targets themselves. The family reorganizes around a simple rule. You hold the blame, so we don't have to. The instinct is so strong that even when the scapegoat grows, matures, succeeds, or moves away, the story often remains frozen in the family's mind. Why? Because the point isn't who gets labeled the scapegoat, it's about what the family needs them to be. Breaking this pattern from within the family is nearly impossible. The moment a scapegoat tries to set boundaries, the family sees it as defiance. Attempts to speak up can trigger even harsher blame. The system pushes back because change threatens the family's emotional equilibrium. Some scapegoats react by withdrawing completely. They learn that silence feels safer. They avoid family gatherings, keep conversations brief, or stay emotionally distant as a shield. Others go in the opposite direction. They try to become perfectionists, people pleasers, or overachievers. They hope that if they do everything right, the blame will finally stop. But it doesn't, because the blame was never about their behavior. The role is psychological, not factual. Even when the scapegoat leaves the toxic environment, the guilt and self-doubt follow them. They may enter relationships where they again tolerate blame, criticism, or emotional manipulation because the dynamic feels familiar. The role trained them to accept mistreatment as normal. So how does someone break free? The first step is recognizing the pattern. A person cannot escape the role until they see it clearly. Psychology research shows that awareness breaks the illusion that the scapegoat is the problem. Once they understand this dynamic, the entire narrative shifts. They begin to see that the blame they carried was never theirs. Healing often requires support outside the family. Therapy helps unpack years of internalized shame. It gives structure and language to experiences that once felt chaotic. Many adults who grew up scapegoated describe therapy as the first place where their story finally made sense. Boundaries become essential. A scapegoat who tries to heal without boundaries often gets pulled back into the role. Limiting contact, refusing to take responsibility for others' emotions, or stepping back from toxic relatives are not acts of cruelty. They are acts of survival. And with time, something powerful begins to happen. The person who was once labeled the problem begins to reclaim their identity. They learn to trust healthy relationships. They develop the confidence they were denied. And eventually, the family story loses its grip on their life. But there is a twist worth noting. When a scapegoat heals, it often exposes the truth that the family tried to bury. Because once the scapegoat stops carrying the blame, the family can no longer avoid what they were hiding behind that role. The structure begins to crack. Sometimes the blame moves to another member, sometimes relationships fracture, sometimes the truth finally emerges. But once the scapegoat steps out of the role, the family loses the emotional shield it relied on. This is the part families fear, and the reason they fight so hard to keep the scapegoat in place. Many scapegoats rise in ways the family never expected. Strength grows where blame once lived. Clarity replaces confusion. Self-worth replaces shame. Because when someone survives a childhood where they carry the weight of everyone else's emotions, they develop resilience that most people never have to learn. And that makes the final truth hit even harder. Sometimes the one the family blamed the most was the one holding the entire family together. And when they finally let go of the role they never chose, the whole story changes. And what was once hidden can no longer stay buried. That is the psychology behind the family's scapegoat. And the moment you see it for what it is, nothing about the blame makes sense anymore.
10 signs of self-centered people you didn't know. You've probably crossed paths with someone who seemed perfectly kind at first glance. Grounded, charming, even thoughtful. But slowly you start to feel drained around them, like every interaction is pulled toward their center of gravity. What you think, what you feel, what you need, it all gets pushed to the edges. That's the quiet design of truly self-centered people. They don't reveal themselves through obvious arrogance. Their patterns hide behind politeness, compliments, and casual conversation, so well disguised that you don't recognize the truth until the emotional cost shows up. Today, we're going deeper into the 10 signs of self-centered people you didn't know. The subtle markers psychology links to egocentric behavior, self-absorption, and attention-seeking traits that many people overlook until it's too late. And the first sign is the one most people misread as confidence, when it's really the opposite. 1. The fragile ego behind their confidence. Self-centered people often carry themselves as if they're effortlessly above the crowd, sure of their opinions, certain of their abilities, unshakably secure. But that sense of superiority isn't rooted in strength. It's balancing something delicate. You can see it in the way their demeanor shifts the moment attention drifts away from them. A room that isn't focused on them suddenly feels hostile. A neutral expression becomes rejection. A small accomplishment by someone else registers as a personal threat. Psychologists describe this tension as the hallmark of a fragile ego, a self-image polished on the outside but unstable underneath. They aren't confident, they're performing with confidence. And the pressure of holding that performance together drives almost everything that follows. Because when someone's identity depends on how they're perceived, they start searching for a very specific kind of fuel. 2. Their need for admiration becomes emotional oxygen. With a self-centered person, attention isn't enjoyable, it's necessary. They may not check in on you, think about you, or consider your needs for long stretches of time. But the moment they want a connection, they expect it instantly and completely. Their sense of worth rises and falls based on external validation. A compliment steadies them. A moment of disinterest destabilizes them. And any shift in the emotional environment feels like a shift in their personal value. This hunger doesn't show up as loud demand. It seeps into conversations. They guide the discussion back to their accomplishments, their stresses, and their victories. Not to share, but to feel anchored. Over time, this dependency narrows their emotional awareness. They're not asking how you feel because they're monitoring something else, whether they're being affirmed. And that's when the next hidden pattern appears. 3. Their empathy only exists when it benefits them. Most people recognize emotional signals. A sad tone, a worried expression, a tired posture. But self-centered individuals filter everything through a simple, unspoken equation. Does this affect me? If your moods shift, they evaluate its impact on their comfort. If you're overwhelmed, they wonder whether your attention will drift. If you're upset, they focus on what they might lose, not what you feel. This isn't always cruelty. Sometimes it's an emotional limitation. They understand emotions logically, but struggle to connect with them intuitively. The split between cognitive empathy and true emotional empathy. That's why your vulnerable moments can feel strangely hollow around them. You open up, and instead of support, you get redirection. Your experience reframed into theirs. Not because your story isn't important, because they're unable to inhabit it. And once they begin seeing relationships through this self-focused lens, something deeper forms beneath the surface. 4. They expect the world to bend toward them. Entitlement in self-centered individuals rarely announces itself. It appears quietly as assumptions that they deserve more attention, more tolerance, more exceptions, more emotional labor, more everything. They move through interactions as if people should adjust their needs without question, even though they rarely adjust to anyone else's. If someone else receives praise, they interpret it as a loss. If someone else gets help, they feel overlooked. If someone else has a moment in the spotlight, they feel displaced. It's not open competition yet. It's the unease of believing the universe is supposed to align around them and noticing when it doesn't. That tension grows until the next shift becomes inevitable. 5. Your success feels like a shadow over their identity. Someone else's achievement should be inspiring, or at least neutral. But for self-centered people, it triggers something uncomfortable. Your progress quietly threatens the hierarchy they have built in their mind. They may congratulate you, but there's a stiffness underneath, a pause that lingers too long, a tone that dips just slightly, a sense that your moment dampens theirs. And because their internal value depends so heavily on standing out, even the smallest accomplishment you make can feel like displacement. It doesn't matter whether the success is personal, professional, or emotional. If it elevates you, they feel reduced. This fragile balance pushes them toward a different strategy, one that looks like support, but functions as control. 6. Their guidance keeps you dependent. Self-centered people often step into the role of helper, advisor, or guide, but their support comes with invisible strings. Their suggestions are rarely about empowering you. They are crafted to define the terms of your progress. They enjoy being the authority you lean on, the person whose approval seems necessary, the one whose insight feels indispensable. Following their advice strengthens the illusion of their importance. Rejecting it feels to them like disrespect. This is the psychology behind manipulative help, support that keeps the other person small enough to remain grateful. And when they sense they're losing that influence, their entire communication style shifts. 7. They hear the words, but not the meaning. Self-centered individuals engage in conversations with an agenda. They listen just long enough to find an entry point to steer things back toward themselves. They remember the details that reinforce their worldview and forget the ones that ask them to step outside it. This creates the uncanny sensation of talking to someone who's physically present but emotionally absent. You can't explain, clarify, or confide, but the moment you stop speaking, your words dissolve. This is the core of conversational narcissism, the erosion of connection disguised as engagement. And without genuine listening, even the gentlest feedback becomes unbearable. 8. Every form of criticism feels like an attack. Criticism, even soft, careful, constructive criticism, destabilizes them, not because of the content, but because of what it represents, a crack in the image they work so hard to maintain. They might deflect, shut down, become irritated, or twist the meaning of what was said. They'll protect their identity before they consider your intention. A request becomes an accusation. A suggestion becomes an insult. A misunderstanding becomes a threat. And when someone is that sensitive to being corrected, their perception of others becomes distorted. 9. They misinterpret neutral moments as personal judgments. A self-centered person rarely sees social interactions as they are. Every expression, pause, or shift becomes a reflection of themselves. If someone is quiet, they assume disapproval. If someone is distracted, they assume rejection. If someone isn't impressed, they assume jealousy. Psychologists connect this to distortions like the spotlight effect, the belief that everyone is constantly evaluating them. This creates misunderstandings that spiral into unnecessary conflict, drama, or withdrawal. And when the real world feels confusing or uncontrollable, they retreat to the one place where they can craft an identity without friction. 10. Social media becomes their stage, not their space. Online, self-centered people find the validation consistency they crave. They present curated images, polished narratives, and strategically timed posts that reinforce the identity they want others to see. If something doesn't perform well, it disappears. If attention rises, they amplify it. If admiration slows, they escalate their presence. This is the pulse of the validation loop, the cycle where self-worth becomes tied to metrics instead of meaning. They're not sharing their life. They're broadcasting a version of themselves that feels safer than reality. And everyone watching becomes part of an audience they're performing for. Self-centered people don't just consume your time. They consume your emotional clarity, your space to breathe, your ability to feel seen. Piece by piece, they draw you into their orbit until you forget that relationships are meant to be mutual. But once you understand the patterns, once you see how their world is shaped, you stop absorbing their behavior as a reflection of your worth. You reclaim the space they've taken. You protect the energy they drain. And most importantly, you remember that connection should feel shared, not one-sided.
Dark side of kindness. Why nice people get hurt most. You think being kind keeps you safe. It doesn't. It's the reason you feel drained, ignored, or used. Because in the dark side of kindness, your good heart can quietly become your biggest weakness. The truth is, people don't always reward kindness. They react to it. Sometimes with warmth, sometimes by taking more than you gave. So, why does being kind make you an easy target? What invisible signals make people take advantage of you? And how can you stay kind without getting crushed? Let's start with the uncomfortable truth. Kindness without strength isn't protection, it's exposure. Most people believe kindness builds safety, but psychologists say it can do the opposite. The trait linked with helping and cooperation are also more likely to face burnout and exploitation. Studies on compassion fatigue show that giving without limits doesn't create peace. It creates exhaustion, anxiety, and even physical symptoms like sleeplessness or headaches. When your instinct is to please, you teach others you'll adapt. That subtle message says, my comfort isn't a priority. It's not cruelty when they take, it's conditioning. And here's the hidden twist. The same warmth that makes people trust you also lowers their fear of hurting you. To them, you feel safe, forgiving, and predictable. That's how kindness, when it's constant and unconditional, stops being connection and starts being invitation. If kindness opens the door to pain, what pattern lies beneath it? Psychologists call it unreciprocated altruism, when you give more than you get. Over time, that imbalance reshapes how your brain sees relationships. MRI studies show that chronic people pleasers experience higher stress activation when they sense disapproval. Their reward centers light up when others are happy, even when it costs them their peace. It's not kindness anymore, it's training. In friendships, in work, in family, this turns into role trapping. You become the fixer, the helper, the listener. And once you're in that role, your needs start to sound like noise. The longer you stay quiet, the less people notice you at all. It's subtle at first. They forget to ask how you're doing. They stop saying thank you. But soon, invisibility becomes your default setting. You start mistaking exhaustion for empathy and peace for avoidance. Your kindness turns into emotional camouflage, a way to survive, not connect. That's why being too nice doesn't make people love you more. It teaches them they don't have to. You start to feel the drift, the unanswered messages, the one-sided effort, the quiet resentment. You begin to wonder if the problem is you. Nothing's wrong. You just gave more than they ever asked for. But the real danger isn't what others take. It's the quiet signals you send that tells them they can. Most kind people never realize how much their body language gives away. A half smile to smooth tension. A nod, even when you disagree. A quiet, it's fine, when it's anything but. Each one tells the other person, you can push further. Behavioral research shows that submissive cues like avoiding eye contact, lowering your voice, or over-smiling are read as low-status behaviors in social hierarchies. People don't even do it consciously. They just test boundaries where they sense they can. That's how kindness vulnerability forms. Not in your actions, but in your signals. When you suppress irritation to keep the peace, you teach others that peace requires your silence. Every "don't worry about it" chips away at your boundaries until kindness turns into invisibility. Awareness is power, but awareness without action changes nothing. So, how do you keep your heart open without making it a target? There's a myth that boundaries make you cold. They don't. They make your kindness last. Healthy boundaries act as filters, not barriers. They let the right people in and keep emotional parasites out. Psychologists describe this as assertive communication, a skill proven to reduce anxiety and increase self-respect. Here's the shift. Stop saying, I can't say no. Start telling yourself, I'm the one who decides when to say yes. When you begin filtering your kindness through choice, people feel it. Your tone changes. Your eyes hold longer. The room listens differently. Boundaries turn kindness from reflex into choice, and choice commands respect. So next time someone pushes, don't over-explain, don't over-apologize. Just say, that doesn't work for me, calmly, once. That sentence tells people something louder than kindness ever could. You respect yourself. And when you do, kindness finally starts to mean something again. When kindness meets clarity, it becomes power. Studies show that selective generosity, giving intentionally to people who reciprocate, boosts happiness and emotional resilience. Because kindness should never be reactive. Not, I must help, but I choose to help. That's how compassion fatigue flips into compassion balance. You still give, but you also recover. You still care, but you don't collapse. Kindness paired with inner strength doesn't attract takers, it attracts equals. People who respect your limits, sense them, and meet you there. So give, but from fullness, not from guilt. Because when kindness flows from strength, it stops being weakness and becomes your quiet power. But long term, how do you keep that power steady? So you stay kind, not crushed. You can't rebuild respect from others until you rebuild it inside yourself. Research shows that kindness paired with self-worth creates stronger relationships and better emotional health. The most respected people aren't the harsh ones. They're the ones who know where they end and others begin. That's the formula for lasting balance: consistency, competence, composure. People trust what's consistent, they respect what's competent, and they follow what's calm. When you master those three, your kindness stops being questioned. It becomes your signature. You stop chasing approval, you stop explaining your worth, and suddenly, the same heart that once left you drained becomes your armor. The dark side of kindness isn't your empathy, it's your silence when you should speak, your yes when you mean no, your forgiveness when they've done nothing to earn it. So keep your kindness, but lose your compliance. Because when your kindness finally learns to defend itself, you stop being easy to hurt.
5 types of people you just can't help. Have you ever poured your heart into helping someone only to realize it's doing nothing? You give advice, encouragement, time, energy, and somehow they just keep sinking deeper. Here's the hard truth. There are certain types of people you just can't help. Not for lack of caring, not for lack of effort, but because some people are wired to resist help until they decide to help themselves. And it always begins the same way, with the person who swears they're fine. They smile like nothing's wrong. They say, "I'm fine." You can see the crash coming, but they refuse to even look at the wreck. These are the deniers. They live in a state psychologists call pre-contemplation, where admitting there's a problem feels more painful than the problem itself. Your advice doesn't reach them because, to them, it sounds like an accusation. When you push harder, they pull away. That's psychological reactance, the instinct to resist anything that threatens autonomy. So you talk, plead, reason, but nothing changes. Because until they choose to face their own reflection, no amount of logic will break the illusion. You can't help someone who's still protecting their lie. And every minute you spend convincing them is a minute you could spend helping someone who actually wants to change. Not everyone denies the problem. Some people wear it like a story, one that never ends in growth. These are the ones who live by an external locus of control, the belief that life just happens to them. The job, the partner, the world. It's always someone else's fault. You listen, you empathize. You give them solutions, but every fix you offer becomes proof that nothing works for them. That's the paradox of the victim mindset. It feeds on attention, not progress. You can't build strength in someone who's addicted to feeling powerless. And when you try to rescue a victim, there's always the same ending. You become the villain the moment they still feel lost. So before you jump in to save them, ask yourself, are you helping or are you being cast in their story again? Then there are the people that say they want things to get better, but secretly don't. They vent, they sigh, they repeat the same frustrations like clockwork. These are the chronic complainers. What they really seek isn't a solution, it's validation. Each time you listen, you reward the loop. Vent, relief, repeat. Complaining is emotional comfort disguised as effort. It seems productive, yet it makes no real difference. And the more you engage, the more you teach them that talking is doing. So the next time they come to you with another problem, try silence instead. Watch how fast the performance ends when there's no audience. Because you can't save a chronic complainer. You can only stop being their stage. Sometimes the people you try hardest to help are the ones studying your empathy. They know exactly what they're doing. They'll flatter, guilt trip, cry, or threaten. Anything to keep your focus locked on them. At first, it feels like compassion. Then suddenly, you're solving their emergencies every week. You start feeling obligated instead of caring. These are the manipulators, masters of twisting empathy into leverage.
Psychologists connect them to traits within the darker triad: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy.
All designed for emotional control. Their goal isn't to heal, it's to hold power.
And every time you rescue them,
You reinforce the very behavior that drains you. You can't help someone who uses your kindness as currency, because what they call need is really just control wearing a mask.
then there's the person who can't take a single step without you.
They call for advice, reassurance, direction, and then ignore everything you say. At first, it feels meaningful. You feel needed, but eventually you realize you've become their emotional life support system. This is codependency, when helping someone turns into enabling them. The more you fix their problems, the weaker they become. They've learned that your effort is easier than their own. Real help ends dependency. Fake help feeds it. If they refuse to grow, your distance becomes the only lesson left, because sometimes walking away isn't abandonment.
It's accountability.
And finally, there's the one who doesn't just drain you, they dismantle you. They're warm one moment, cold the next. Charming, cruel, unpredictable. You keep hoping that if you just say the right thing, they'll finally hear you. But logic doesn't reach people driven by emotional chaos. Many of them carry deep trauma or instability, but that doesn't make you their therapist.
Your compassion can't heal someone who's weaponized their pain.
And when you keep trying, You don't just lose energy, you lose yourself. You can't mend something you didn't destroy, and you can't keep bleeding to prove you care. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is leave the storm behind. Here's the truth most people never learn. Some people don't want your help, they want your attention. Some people don't need saving, they need consequences. And some will never change, until you stop cushioning their fall.
Helping doesn't always mean staying.
Sometimes it means stepping back so they can finally face what you've been shielding them from. Because you can't fix what refuses to face itself. And the most powerful kind of help is knowing when to stop giving it.
Have you ever noticed how some people walk into a room and instantly lose everyone's respect, quietly, without even realizing why? It's not the loud mistakes that make people pull away. It's the small, subtle habits, the ones that signal more than they say. And once you understand them, you'll see how easily respect fades and how quickly it can return. It begins with something so common that most people don't even notice they do it. Cutting someone off mid-sentence, jumping in to finish their thought. On the surface, it feels harmless, just energy, enthusiasm. But underneath, it sends a quiet message. My words matter more than yours. Interrupting is a silent dominance cue, and the brain registers it as social disrespect. In studies on conversation flow, people rated interrupters as less trustworthy and more self-absorbed. The fix isn't to talk less, it's to listen longer. Wait half a breath, let them finish. That moment of restraint tells others something powerful. I value your voice. And in any social setting, listening is influence. But sometimes we don't interrupt, we just redirect. You share a story and somehow it circles back to them. You talk about a rough day and suddenly it becomes their tough week, their worst experience. Psychologists call this conversational narcissism. It's not cruelty, it's insecurity disguised as empathy. You're not connecting, you're competing for attention. If you want to reverse it, add one habit: curiosity. Ask one more question before you share your story. Because people don't remember those who talk the most, they remember those who made them feel most heard. Then there's the voice that drags a room down without even trying. Negativity, constant complaint, that low, invisible storm that follows someone everywhere they go. Emotional contagion studies show that negativity spreads faster than any virus. It drains focus, energy, and even memory in others. And soon, people start associating your presence with exhaustion. You don't have to fake positivity. You just need to speak toward a resolution. Vent to process, not to perform. Because every complaint without a solution teaches others to tune you out. And when your words lose gravity, your presence does too. The next habit hides behind good intentions, the need to impress. You drop achievements into stories, name-check connections, or humble brag about being so busy. You're trying to sound confident, but it lands as performance. Research shows that even authentic bragging feels warmer than forced modesty. At least honesty feels real. What people want isn't perfection, it's congruence. When your words match your energy, they trust you. When they don't, they feel the act before they hear it. You don't gain respect through flash or ego. You earn it by letting people discover your strengths on their own time. Then there's the quiet killer of credibility: inconsistency. Saying one thing, doing another, agreeing to plans you never keep, promising help, then vanishing. Behavioral inconsistency destroys trust faster than betrayal. People don't expect you to be flawless. They just want to know what to expect. Every time you flake, their confidence in you fractures, and once reliability goes, respect follows. Keep fewer promises, but keep all of them. Because integrity doesn't shout, it repeats itself. Some habits don't break trust, they just break the connection. Defensiveness is one of them. When every question feels like an attack, conversations turn into landmines. It's not intelligence people sense when you argue every point, it's fragility. You're not protecting truth, you're protecting ego. Studies show that calm receptivity, even under criticism, ranks as one of the most respected traits in social psychology. So pause before reacting. Ask yourself, am I listening to defend or to understand? That question alone can shift the energy of any room. Then there's the signal people read before you even speak, your timing. Being late seems small, but socially it says, my time matters more than yours. Lateness breaks rhythm. It tells people they can't rely on you to respect their boundaries. Over time, it's not about clocks, it's about character. The solution isn't just punctuality, it's preparation. Show up early, not for appearance, but to make others feel seen, because respect begins in small timing. And even when you arrive on time, are you really there? Distraction kills connection faster than distance. Looking at your phone mid-sentence, half listening while your thoughts race elsewhere. People feel that disconnection instantly. It tells them, you're not important right now. Even micro-distractions, a glance, a buzz, can cut perceived empathy in half. So put the phone away, hold eye contact, let silence stay. Because real attention is one of the rarest currencies left. Some habits live deeper, under the skin. Holding grudges is one of them. You think you're protecting your peace, but what you're really protecting is pain. People sense that heaviness. They start filtering themselves around you, walking on eggshells through unspoken tension. Letting go isn't weakness, it's control. It means someone else's actions no longer dictate your mood, and that kind of emotional steadiness, it's magnetic. But perhaps the most draining habit of all is needing constant reassurance, asking if someone's mad, fishing for compliments. It's what psychologists call validation seeking, and while it comes from insecurity, it lands as pressure. Confidence isn't built through approval, it's built through self-trust. The less you chase validation, the more freely people offer it, because connection breathes in space, not in demand. In the end, respect isn't lost in explosions, it's lost in inches. A missed pause, a broken promise, a forced smile. Every habit we've covered shares one truth. People don't dislike you for being imperfect. They pull away when they can't feel safe around you. So, protect the small things, your timing, your tone, your presence, your promises. Because likability isn't about charm, it's about emotional awareness. And once you understand that, people stop just tolerating you and start trusting you. Even silence earns respect when it comes from strength. Have you ever felt like love was a performance? Like every smile, every word, every quiet breath around your mother had to be carefully measured, or something inside her would shift? That fear, that confusion, that constant tension might have a name. It's possible you grew up with a narcissistic mother. Children of maternal narcissism grow up inside of a house that looks normal from the outside, but inside, love becomes a currency. Emotions turn into traps, and approval is the only way to survive. Today, we're uncovering the quiet truth beneath that upbringing, the subtle signs that you may have missed, how they shape the person you became, and what it truly means to break free. Because sometimes the hardest part of healing isn't escaping the control, it's finally recognizing that it was control at all. It often starts small, with conditional love. Love that arrives only when you meet expectations, when your grades, appearance, or behavior make her look good. The moment you slip, affection disappears. That's how you learn that love is earned, not given. You start scanning for cues, rehearsing smiles, apologizing for things you didn't do. Psychologists call it conditional positive regard, when a parent's affection depends on performance, and over time, it replaces your real self with a version built for approval. That's not love, that's management. When affection feels like a test, you weren't being raised, you were being trained. But what happens when even the performance stops working? You could be crying right in front of her, and she'd look right through you. That's emotional neglect, the quietest, most invisible wound of all. Every tear becomes an inconvenience, every feeling a flaw. Don't be so sensitive. You're overreacting. Those words teach you to silence yourself, to numb, not to feel. And as an adult, that silence becomes second nature. You question your emotions, you doubt comfort, you brace for rejection, even when no one's rejecting you. Science now shows that chronic invalidation rewires the stress system. It teaches your body to fear peace. So, if calm feels uncomfortable, it's not because you're broken. It's because your nervous system learned that safety never lasts. And then, something even more subtle happens. She stops being the parent and turns you into one. When she cried, you comforted her. When she raged, you calmed her. When she broke down, you fixed it. That's parentification, the reversal of emotional roles. And it makes you grow up too soon, thinking love means caretaking. You learned to anticipate needs that weren't yours. You became the therapist, the peacemaker, the emotional anchor. And now, as an adult, you still feel responsible for everyone else's pain. Research shows that children forced into this role develop deep self-worth confusion. They believe love must be earned through usefulness. So, if giving feels natural but receiving feels wrong, that's not kindness, that's conditioning. Eventually, your light starts to threaten hers. When you succeed, she smiles until your success outshines her own. Then, the warmth vanishes. This is maternal competition, when your achievements become her insecurities. She downplays, mocks, or even sabotages what should be your proudest moments. Why? Because in her world, only one person is allowed to shine. Her identity feeds on hierarchy, and to stay above, she must keep you small. If you've ever felt guilt in your own success, that's not humility, that's survival learned in the shadow of narcissistic grandiosity. Soon, the ground beneath you begins to blur. Arguments stop being about truth, they become battles for dominance. Every disagreement ends the same. You're too sensitive, you remember it wrong. You're the problem. That's gaslighting, when reality itself is rewritten until you doubt your own mind. Her goal isn't resolution, it's control. If she can distort your perception, she controls your loyalty, and slowly you stop trusting yourself. You question memories, emotions, even your own sanity. But let this sink in. If you grew up apologizing for your own pain, that wasn't love. That was power, disguised as morality. You begin to live on alert. One day she's kind, the next she's cold. You never know which version you'll get. That inconsistency becomes addictive. You start craving her approval, hoping each good moment means the bad ones are over. That's how she keeps you hooked. Unpredictability is the tool. Control is the reward. You read her mood like a weather report. You learn to tiptoe, anticipate, and overthink. And even now, you might mistake chaos for love, because in your world, stability never felt safe. If peace makes you uneasy, it's because your nervous system doesn't trust stillness. So you adapt. You chase perfection, grades, appearance, success, trying to earn the approval you never got. But no amount of success ever seems to satisfy. That's the narcissistic legacy. Her voice becomes your inner critic. You replay mistakes, you downplay wins, you confuse achievement with worth. Psychologists link this to perfectionism, anxiety, and chronic shame, the invisible aftermath of impossible standards. If good enough feels like failure, It's not ambition talking, it's her voice, still echoing in your mind. And then comes the hardest truth of all. When love is conditional, trust becomes dangerous. You either build walls too high for anyone to climb, or cling too tightly, terrified they'll leave. That's the aftershock of being raised by a narcissistic mother. Your nervous system expects betrayal. Even kindness feels suspicious. You crave intimacy, but don't believe it's real. You want safety, but can't relax inside it. But healing starts here, when you stop trying to earn love and start learning to receive it. The hardest part isn't forgiving her. It's believing that you were never the problem. You grew up believing that love had to be earned, that silence means safety, that pleasing others equals survival. But those lessons were lies, and the moment you see them for what they are, they lose their power, because you were never unworthy. You were just raised by someone who couldn't love without control, and breaking that pattern isn't rebellion, it's freedom.
Have you ever wondered why some people feel more alive the moment they close their own front door? Not bored, not lonely, just grounded. Like the world finally makes sense again. For people who love staying at home, that moment isn't rare. It's their everyday reality. While others chase noise, crowds, and plans, they find their spark in stillness, comfort, and the quiet rhythm of their own space. So what makes staying at home feel so good for them? Why do some people recharge in solitude while others drain in it? And how does choosing a home sanctuary actually lead to a happier, clearer, more intentional life than constantly going out? Let's pull back the curtain on a world most people never slow down long enough to understand. Some people step into a crowded place and feel their energy drain like a battery on red. Others walk into the living room and feel it rise. That's because many home-first people have a brain that works better in stable, low-stimulation environments. Psychologists studying sensory processing found that people with more sensitive nervous systems absorb details more intensely, such as lights, sounds, movement, and even social cues. For them, the outside world isn't exciting. It's loud, it's busy, it's too much. At home, the noise drops, their thoughts sharpen, their breathing slows, the stress chemicals fade. The brain switches from overload to control. This isn't shyness or laziness. This is biology. It's the same reason some animals survive better in calm habitats, while others chase chaos. People with this wiring operate their best when the environment supports their nervous system instead of attacking it. And once you understand that, staying home stops looking like hiding and starts looking like alignment. But there's another layer people miss. It's not just about shutting the world out. It's about what staying in lets them access. There's a moment many homebodies know well. The door closes, the world quiets, and the mind finally clicks into place. Not loneliness, clarity. Psychologists call this restorative solitude. It's the kind of alone time that resets the emotional system, boosts creativity, and strengthens decision-making. People who love staying home experience a deeper version of it because they don't treat solitude as punishment. They treat it as fuel. When they're alone, the brain isn't scanning for social cues or managing small talk. It's free. And something else happens. Inner voices get louder than outer opinions. That's why people who enjoy staying at home often know themselves better. They hear their real thoughts without noise drowning them out. They sense what they want, what they don't, and who they are when no one's watching. Research shows that this kind of attentive solitude increases emotional regulation, meaning homebodies recover from stress faster and make calmer choices in conflicts. It's not that they're avoiding life. It's that they're strengthening the part of themselves that shows up when life hits them back. Still, it's not just the emotional benefits that make this lifestyle powerful. There's a practical side people overlook, and it changes everything. The outside world is anything but certain. Crowds, traffic, noise, expectations, costs. But the moment someone steps into their own cozy living space, everything becomes predictable. They control the temperature, the lighting, the sounds, and the pace. That control builds something many people struggle to maintain: mental efficiency. When the environment is predictable, the brain wastes less energy reacting, which means more energy for focus, creativity, and strategy. And then there's the financial part. People who enjoy their domestic lifestyle naturally avoid the constant spending on drinks, rides, food, events, and clothes that come with going out. Their fun doesn't require an entry fee. Their peace isn't tied to a place that charges by the hour. They also conserve emotional energy. No forced conversations, no awkward social loops, no pretending. That saved energy becomes fuel for their own interests, projects, hobbies, and personal growth. Where others burn out from constant stimulation, home-first people build stability. Where others chase novelty for a dopamine spike, they create deep, lasting enjoyment. And that's why the stay-at-home personality isn't a limitation. It's a strategic lifestyle, one built on peace, intention, and self-direction. But what they do with that peace, that's where the story gets even more interesting. Certain people need constant noise just to feel alive. Homebodies don't. They come alive when the world gets quiet enough for their mind to start working at full depth. When someone spends more time in their own sanctuary, something rare happens. Their interests stop being shallow hobbies and start becoming long-form passions. There's no rush, no interruption, no pressure to perform. They can dive into coding for 3 hours straight, or lose themselves in a book, or even build a craft skill. Psychologists call this deep focus immersion, the state where attention narrows and creativity expands. It shows up more in calm, controlled environments than in public ones, where constant interruptions break concentration before it even forms. People who love staying at home master this state with ease, not because they're special, but because their environment actually supports it. This is why so many writers, artists, engineers, analysts, and hobby-driven thinkers thrive in solitude. Home becomes a workshop for the mind, a place where scattered thoughts finally land and stay still long enough to grow. And even if the world doesn't see the progress, homebodies feel it every single day. But their life isn't just built on inner depth. Their way of connecting with others is just as unique and just as misunderstood. The stereotype says staying home means being antisocial. But in reality, home-focused people can have stronger relationships than anyone else. Why? Because they don't spread their time thin. They don't bounce from circle to circle trying to fit in. They choose carefully, intentionally, and they show up fully for the people they trust. There's no performance, no mask, and no social exhaustion that forces them to withdraw. When they talk, it's meaningful. When they listen, it's attentive. When they care, it's real, not something done out of obligation. Their friendships often form around shared routines, things like home dinners, long conversations, movie nights, game nights, and creative sessions. These aren't backup plans. They're the kind of slow, comfortable interactions that build emotional closeness faster than any loud night out. And here's the part most people overlook. Because homebodies pace their social energy, they avoid burnout. Their connections last longer. They don't disappear, ghost, or run out of steam. They build relationships the same way they build their inner world, steadily, deeply, and with their full heart present. But the most surprising part of this lifestyle isn't the peace, or the focus, or even the relationships. it's the sense of power it gives them. Choosing to stay at home in a world that pressures you to go out isn't a weakness. It's autonomy. Most people don't realize how much of their life is shaped by outside noise, trends, comparison, fear of missing out, and social pressure. But people who love their cozy living rhythm move differently. They choose based on internal signals, not external ones. At home, they build routines